Hello, everybody, and welcome back. In case you have been watching before, but welcome back to another episode of the Sofa Series Artist Spotlight. Today, with me, we have Christine Tavolacci, an incredible flutist based in LA. So, thank you for joining me. Yay!
Yay. Yay. It works because our hands are moving.
It works. Yeah, exactly. The video won't freeze if we stay in motion the
Yeah.
whole time. Uh, oh my God, here we go. So I would love it if you could perhaps walk us through a little bit of your life story. Where are you from? And
Whoa.
well, I mean, you don't have to like go like do a deep dive, just the hits. And how did you come to San Diego or and then LA?
Yeah. Okay. I am from the East Coast, even though I haven't lived there since 2000, so that's a really long time.
Wow.
But yeah, I'm from Connecticut, and most of my family is from the Bronx and Queens, so very exciting. Yeah, I moved out to California in 2001 to go to Cal Arts for my undergrad.
Mm.
And that was only because I went to like to arts boarding school in Interlochen, and I had a suite mate, means we shared a bathroom. Who ended up we were friends, and she ended up mentioning, oh, this school called Cal Arts, and I like had a really amazing theory teacher who um, played contemporary music for us in class, specifically some Steve Reich tape pieces. So
Yeah,
not the tonal stuff, the tape pieces.
which I think
And
is my favorite. See, right?
oh, it's still my favorite. It's still my
Oh,
favorite. And it blew my mind. And then I was like, wait, they do that kind of stuff at CalArts. Oh my God. So then I went there.
yeah. Easy.
And yeah, I kind of jumped in. And then I moved away for a little bit to go to school in France. Which is a really crazy story. I guess I go down rabbit holes. That's like
All right. Well, do you want to go down?
so I went to, this is really random, but I went to Amoeba, which is now going out of business, I think, and it's really sad. It's a very large record store.
It's an
And like,
iconic record
yeah,
store in Los Angeles. Even those of us who are not from Los Angeles know where it is, and why it's.
yeah, well, I don't know if it's, anyway, that's another rabbit hole. I went there back in the early 2000s, and I was like, let me search the flute section. I don't know who else does that. Probably not that many
Flutist,
people.
Christine. Flutists do that.
And I found this interesting CD by this Italian flutist named Mario Caroli, and I was like, this is amazing. Playing music by Sharino. And I didn't know who that was, and I got obsessed, and I ordered the sheet music, and then nobody knew how to play any of it over here at that time. It
Yeah.
was like 2004 or 5.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, this dude knows how to play it because it sounds amazing on the CD. So I emailed him. I don't even know how I found his email. Stalked him. And I was like, where do you teach? I want to stay with you. And then he's like, I teach in Strasbourg, which I was really bummed that it wasn't Italy.
Yeah.
Oh, well. And then I flew out there and I auditioned and I went to school in Strasbourg for 2 years and then went down that rabbit hole. And then I came back to UCSD because it's one of the few programs at the time you could study at the doctoral level in contemporary performance.
That's right. I mean, I don't. Are
Yeah,
there? Does CalArts even have a DMA yet? A doctorate?
they do, but I don't think they did, or they were just developing it
Mm.
when I moved back. So that was 2008.
Wow.
Old. But
Wow.
yeah, so yeah, I think I get obsessive. So my obsessions like led me back here,
So you
and
still
I stayed.
have like a
Yeah.
problem with impulse control.
Yes. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, yeah,
Like, how rad is that though? Like that's how honestly I think that's how it should be. You should be like, I like what they're doing. I want some of that. And so then you go and get some of that, you know? That's absolutely
yeah,
great. That's wonderful.
yeah, and I mean, especially because John Fonville, who I studied with who's since retired, but he specializes in just intonation and microtonal flute music, and so I was like, I'm going to do a lot of that. So I did a lot of that at that time.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I no, not just so anyway. So like, let's talk a little bit about what is it about? I don't know, because John Fonville's class so he taught this in this course called Just Intonation, and you're really only supposed to take it like once, and I took it every single quarter.
Yes.
Because it was like my little happy place that in my doctoral degree program that was otherwise like freaking stressing me out in ways that I had never experienced before in my life, and like making me question my entire life's choices, and but then there's this like
Yeah.
class that is just like this wonderful meditation, where you just sit on a note for a while. And then you go to another
Yeah.
note, maybe a little higher than the last, you know? So what is it for you, this kind of tuning systems? What does it for you? Why does it light your fire?
Okay. I'm trying to figure out how to verbalize, even though I talk a lot. Sometimes
So if you
it makes
move
me
more,
anxious.
maybe that
Yes.
will come.
Um, I think, to be honest, all the theory behind it is fascinating, and that's another rabbit hole. But for me, I think it's a lot of the physicality of it. For probably the same for you as vocalists, but since our instruments are tied together and they operate similarly,
Hmm.
the feeling in your body and your face and the resonance when everything locks into place and is in tune, or the different relationships between intervals physically is an incredible feeling that I think we miss out in temper tuning.
Right.
And also for me, I think John was so well versed in the theory, but the thing that I really respect and identify with is he was like, throw that out the window as a performer. I mean, okay, he probably didn't say it that way, but like to from an ear training perspective, that you're using your body and memorizing the fingerings and the positions of your embouchure. For you, probably same thing with
Oh,
your
totally. It's muscle memory. Yeah.
resonance in your mouth. But yeah, so really exploring how to maintain and develop that muscle memory for just intonation. So that I feel like is a bigger takeaway that I got from him that I use all the time. So
Yeah, I think like at one point I asked him to explain to me like the math, and I was like, I get it. No, maybe not really. And I think
that's
I
okay. I think
kind
it's
of get
okay.
it.
It's
But
okay because I mean, they're naturally occurring systems too. So I think it's okay that you can approach things on an intuitive level and also an academic level, and they don't always need to coexist. Or they do, but they don't in your consciousness at the moment.
yeah, they were mutually exclusive camps for me, like if I would ask Drew Allen, for example, to really give me the nitty-gritty, the give me all the fractions and like tell me all the decimal points and just tell me what it all means. And he would do it and he would get super excited to explain it all, and then I'd be like, okay, like 10 steps ago though, ask her to like backtrack and start over, and he was
Yeah.
endlessly patient with me. But just maybe just sort of to the layperson, I'm not presuming everybody even knows what the difference between well-tempered and just temperament. Like
Yeah.
what is it? What is the difference?
Yeah.
Not a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
To
So
that.
I mean, and that's what? Sure. That's not the point of this interview.
Is it? No, I'm not gonna answer that. But like basically, it's like you take a
Yeah.
note, what you think a
Yeah.
note is, and then you just like go a little bit higher,
Mhm.
or you go a little bit lower, and then there's some math involved where there's several notes that are just like a little higher and just a little lower. They snuggle together in a really beautiful way. That's how I felt it in my body anyway at the time.
Sure.
And when the snuggle is just right, you know it. Like the air clears.
But
And
things.
go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say things do. I mean, you do feel when frequency when it is in tune because there you feel it physically, or
Yeah.
I do at least in like your nasal cavities and your fingers. Also, you can hear it's correct.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a fascinating thing we don't get. I mean, I know I'm like giving you a hard time, but But I
I
mean,
said
I
we're
kind of
the
want to
very
tie
same
it.
people. We both have doctorates.
Oh, but I mean, that's not the point of. Anyway, I mean, I think just to tie it into things that fascinate me,
Yes,
I
please.
think things like. I mean, things like nuances in resonance and nuances in physicality of playing. I think those are things that I really enjoy to
It's
explore. So
yeah.
part of why I chose the pieces I chose for you guys.
Yeah, well, like, talk a little bit about that, like the little mechanics. So, like, I was talking about this with the pianist because like a piano is a piano, a flute is a flute, right?
Hmm.
How can you? It's like a system of buttons that allows air flow, right? And so, like, how do you like? What are you feeling for in as you change a pitch? Just so, like, what sorts of things do you feel coming through your fingers into your hands as you're operating?
I mean, a lot of it actually is it's mostly happening here.
Good,
So
really.
I think yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think mostly about this, certain positions that small muscles in my face. What are they doing? Um, Sometimes it's focal points that I'm even like looking at that causes a small muscle to move.
Ha.
Uh, Space inside my mouth. What does it feel like? Changing vowels, change shapes like that. Nuances in like your air, how much air speed.
Uh-huh.
So I
Oh,
found
we're the
which my
same,
fingers.
dude. We're the same.
I know. When I teach, like I'm kind of I'm obnoxious. Like with my students, I'm like, think like a singer. You're a singer with a tube.
Yeah,
Think
just
this way.
a little apparatus attached to the end of
Yeah,
it.
yeah. And I'm not a trained singer in any way. Never know. So
We can swap lessons. I'll teach you.
yeah,
I'll teach you.
but I mean, something like, for instance, with Laura Steenbridge's piece,
Yeah.
I really love that she invites you to explore at will different intervals between voice and the flute, and also like to different degrees. You could choose phrases that appeal to you, repeat them, and play with harmony
Mhm.
or texture. So I could just be singing or playing and singing, combine fourths, fifths, unisons, things.
Yeah.
Or I can pick a few notes that I'm like, this note, I like this note. I'm going to explore this, um, and for any given amount of time. And the smaller intervals, like for a second, or or smaller than that,
Hmm.
like a quarter tone
Yeah.
or an eighth tone, and explore those to my satisfaction before I move on. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like I get my own rabbit hole in a piece.
Yeah, where you just sort of get to exist and just sort of be in
Yeah.
space for a little bit longer.
Yeah, I mean, she literally in the instructions talked about there's different modes that I go between. Um, the mode where you're exploring a larger structure and a mode within a micro little universe.
What are the modes of the like the structure? How do you explore the macro?
Um, I mean, there's different lines of chant based on the Trisagion. Which I hope I pronounced that correctly. Don't shoot me. um, and and so you can repeat lines, or you can repeat several lines together in a larger, phrase according to your will. There's no distinct place that you need to take breath or anything. And at any time, I can switch between that or the mode where you explore up to 4 notes at a time. But each note has to be a much longer length, so it's almost like you blew it up under a microscope,
Yeah.
in a sense. Yeah,
So
yeah.
what? And they're all for the low flute, right? So
Yeah, yeah, that's
alto.
specifically bass flute. The other two pieces I chose were alto,
Yeah. Yeah.
the middle child.
The middle child.
It is.
Oh, poor
The
alto.
awkward middle child. Yeah.
So what is the difference in like how would you describe the difference in sound between this may seem like a pretty rudimentary question or maybe elementary, but like the difference in playing for the bass versus the alto flute, um,
Sure.
do you have preferences?
Um, I love bass flute. That's my favorite. but
Why?
I mean, they're both wonderful. They're all. It feels good. I don't know.
Great answer. That's the
Um,
answer.
See, yeah, I know. It's like for having a doctor, I'm a very intuitive person. I enjoy research too, but at the core
Yeah.
of everything. Anyway, alto flute. I mean, it's a little more volatile, and this is my personal opinion. I think people will agree with me that play the flute. Um, it's in a different key. It's a transpose in G, but it's more volatile, and I feel like it has less of a expressive range. But it could be just to me and physically. Um,
What do you mean
I
by
mean,
volatile?
volatile. Um, it's really easy to reach the limit. Like if you're really pushing, like say dynamic limits or color limits, I feel like it has less of a range
Hmm.
in some ways, but it has a really beautiful color because of that. It exists in this gray area that I think there's less clarity,
Hmm.
I think, than you get with like, even though bass is like nice and fluffy, there still can be more clarity, in my opinion. So it works really well for certain pieces to play alto, like I think Anastasis's piece. The innate character of alto really like lends itself to the that work.
Well, what is it
That's
in
my personal
what is
opinion.
it in Anastasis's piece that I think I love? It's like so good to say. What is it
Oh,
in that piece that really think do you think extracts like the good qualities or how is the alto flute best suited for it?
simplicity, simplicity. So it really highlights the really mellow, um, innate tone quality of that instrument, and I think also just it's in the registers that it was created to
Yeah.
play in, if that makes sense. So like you can play high notes on the alto flute. It sounds very awkward
Yeah,
and tense,
yeah. It
which
looks awkward.
yeah, but
Yes.
which is a thing, and there are pieces that exploit that to a degree that are very successful for that.
Right.
That's not what I had in mind for this. But
No.
yeah, yeah, I think it just really highlights, and also, I mean, that piece was composed about an uninhabited island
Hmm.
in Greece. We all should invade. No, I'm kidding.
No, no,
But
we shouldn't. Just
should
you
not
and
go
I
there.
should.
We should not. Um,
Nobody else should, though.
yeah, yeah, and I think I mean, there's kind of like a weird vapid quality. I think that the alto flute has that I think lends itself to that idea.
Yeah, yeah. So, like, are
If that
you?
makes sense.
I don't know. Do you sort of vacillate between the kind of low and slow and the kind of wildly virtuosic? Is has wildly
Mm,
virtuosic ever really been your bag?
huh. Maybe that's a good question. Um, I don't always play slow pieces, but I think I appreciate like technical virtuosity. But what I gravitate towards is I think more. I really enjoy processes, mental processes that end up creating virtuosic scenarios. I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah.
Yeah, but the process has to come first. For me. Um, I don't think I'm one that wants to just show up and be like, "Here, I'm playing 10 million notes for you all. This is
Yeah.
wonderful." Um, not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean,
No, no, there
at
isn't.
all.
I've been asking, I think all of the players about this notion of virtuosity, especially those, the ones of us who are contemporary music, affiliated,
Hmm.
predominantly. That's our lane, right? And so
Yeah,
I think we sort of we get lots of pieces that throw all the notes at us and
yeah,
all the tricks and all of the extra musical sounds and all the extended techniques and all of the like real technique and real, I mean. Um, but but I think that a lot of us are starting to turn towards and favor the things that are just a little bit slower moving or just things that that maybe give a little bit more agency to the player, and it sounds a little bit like that's what these three pieces do for you.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I appreciate there. There are a lot of there are a lot of challenges that, I mean, some things it doesn't sound like it would be difficult because it's not fast, or that's to maybe like a traditional listener.
Right. Yeah.
But holding, like, for instance, with singing and playing, like holding a specific position with your vocal cords and your embouchure, and they're like two different things that you have to, like, you cannot move.
Yeah.
Those kind of things are really take a lot of practice and time to get to happen effectively.
Right.
But yeah, I think you know. I think the mental process and the concept behind peace is what moves me to want to spend time with it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
That does answer the question. I mean, I think that's totally right, right? Like it gives you, to throw it out like a cliche, but it gives you food for thought, right? So it gives you
Yeah.
not just that you have to consider, or maybe it is because you do have to consider your relationship to the instrument, to in this case two instruments simultaneously, the invisible and the external, the apparatus,
Yeah.
right? Um,
Yeah.
and like, how does one invade the other? And how do you keep them like separate but equal? Like that.
Yeah.
I always love it when, first of all, when any instrumentalist plays, but especially I love it when flutists play, because it's like you're like adding like an extra voice box to the voice
Yeah.
box. It's like this sort of great this
Mhm.
great two-part thing, and it's just
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think another thing too that really gets me is with processes, like, aside from the physical, is also getting to different mental states and ways of thinking in real time. So, um, and how the brain works.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Not something that I played for you guys, but there's a piece that I did a lot, like a couple, years ago, like at UCSD a lot, called Until by Clarence Barlow. It's for piccolo and sinetone, and it has you repeat a series of cells, and with the sinetone playing that creates different tones.
Yeah.
That's cool. But the interesting part about the piece is that you repeat cells a certain amount of times. And, like, for instance, you begin with 13 times. And the rhythm can never be the same from one time that you repeat it to the next time. And then, when you're done with 13, you play the second cell once. Then you go back and you play the first cell 9 times. And then you go and play the second cell 3 times. And you cycle through until you've phased out one cell. Now you're in the second one, and then you move to the third one, and you do the same process. Okay, it's like I think it's impossible to not mess that up, because when you get over 10 times, your brain's like, what? And
Yeah.
but then you're also thinking, I need to change the rhythm. I'm going to hold this note longer this time, and this. And you get in this frenzied mental state, which I hope nobody notices when you're playing it, but it's really interesting, like warp zone that you get into. And then, like 3/4 of the way through, the sinetone modulates up. No, wait, don't. Wait, I forget. I'm not looking at the score. It's been a couple of years. It
I
changes.
heard you play this, and I gotta tell you that like I wasn't paying attention to you. To be perfectly honest, I was
It's
like
fine.
bathing in the
Yeah,
phenomenon, the thing that's happening outside of you. So as far as I was concerned,
good.
the other computer in the room making sound.
That's great. I mean, I think like it. Well, and that's great because I think for the listener, like I would like you to go on your own separate journey of
Yes.
process. It doesn't need to be watching me like figure out how to navigate this system of constraints,
Yeah.
but yeah, it modulates. So it's like the floor shifts, and then you're trying to tune everything differently, but like I really enjoy stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's never gonna be perfect, but you're gonna have like a different crazy experience every time, and you're in the now, and you don't have room to think about anything else, and that's kind of amazing.
Right. You can't really sort of be like self-conscious and be like, oh my God, did I wear the
Oh,
right shoes? They're looking at me, my butt, you can't be all of those weird, like superficial.
what am I eating for lunch?
Yeah. Or the doom dart that I usually get is like, why am I a singer? Like, why did I do this? Why do I do this to myself? this is really hard and this is really stressful and everybody knows that I'm going to be terrible. It's like I go down that little rabbit hole, which is really helpful.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So we all have them. We all have them. There needs to be like yeah.
Like
But
support
but
group,
like
right? That's what we need.
yeah, but I mean with things like this or even like with Laura's piece, you can map out a trajectory for how you perform that. You can. I don't like to because I want to be in the moment. Like I'm gonna go here. Now I'm gonna go here. Now I'm gonna go here.
Yeah.
Okay, it's time to only focus on these for because I want to be in the present moment as much as I can.
Yeah. I mean, do you consider failure as part of the process? That process out in front of people is how do you kind of accept failure or deal with it?
Yeah, I mean, there's certain I would say, okay, really, a lot of the time it is built in, and you
Hmm.
have to learn to be okay with it.
Yeah.
Even like I would argue things like like the alto flute, my BFF. It's a tough instrument to navigate, and inevitably there'll be something that you don't. I feel like inevitably there's something that happens that you don't love that happen, and
Right.
you got to be okay with that because it's super volatile.
Yeah.
If you're gonna push the limits and not be like a safe player. So like things like Chelsea to tie it into like that piece
Mhm.
is crazy registral jumps, things that are innately really challenging on the instrument. Uh, you know, and you have to be okay with that and really think, okay, what am I conveying? I'm conveying this like wandering journey around a few notes,
Yeah.
and that's more important than anything else.
Yeah. We,
Inevitably, that'll make it more correct, probably because I'm not obsessing over like
sure, right? Like I'm sure you find that with like with your students, the second that they start
yeah,
like they turn their brain off a little bit and they just kind of like submit and let their bodies
yeah,
go and they don't over obsess over every teeny tiny little thing, which is like impossible. It's impossible.
yeah.
You
I mean,
know?
don't get me wrong, I could be OCD, but like you gotta figure out where's
Yeah.
the right time. Where's the right? Well, we all are. I think
Yeah.
musicians are the same. Get to
Yeah.
a certain like, if you've made it through like your bachelor's degree, you get OCD.
You get a
Congratulations.
little obsessive over these every teeny little itty bitty thing because I don't know. I guess for me, I always assume there's someone in the audience that knows, that knows all the secrets of the piece that I'm doing and what the problems of my instrument and like that everybody knows somebody knows out there. So it's for that one person, but then that just takes me out of it, and then I lose focus of what like really what is important and like
Yeah,
conveying meaning, conveying some sort of like connection, and not even just conveying it, but actually being connected to the thing, the material. What am I saying? Why am I saying it?
yeah.
And then when
So,
that happens, then the technique really just like falls into place. And
mhm.
if it doesn't, then it's really not important. It just isn't in the long,
Yeah.
the long
That's
grand.
like my performance or trick. Not that like anytime I have to play solo in like even in my bedroom where I was now, but anytime if I'm going on stage like before, I have to make myself think of what's the one thing I love most about this piece. What do I want everyone to hear when I play it? And like I make myself like go through that, and then I walk on stage.
Oh, that is
Like,
so good. That is
I,
so good. That's it.
yeah.
That's it. I mean,
I
do you
mean, it could just be one. Just pick. Why pick one thing?
one
Because you don't want
thing?
to be like
No, one
total.
thing.
Like, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Just one thing. Your mind can only handle so much, you know?
yeah. See, it's like all those number patterns. Like that's not what makes the piece. Is like the process of going through it. It's not. Did I play that cell 13 times and then
Right.
this cell 2 times? It's not the. I mean,
Not really the
yes and no.
point.
I
Yeah.
mean, don't play it 3 times. Try to play it 13 times. But
Maybe in the ballpark of 13.
yeah. Anyway,
I mean, do you deal with performance anxiety? Have you ever had to confront that demon?
oh, yeah. Yes.
Yes.
I think that if someone does not, I would love to meet them. But
For
seriously.
real. For real. I don't, yeah. Yeah,
I
I mean,
think,
like,
yeah, I mean, I try to like. I mean, for sure, I get weird physical things like we all do. Thankfully, my weird thing is I get this twitchy knee thing.
Really? That just like, is it the same one every time?
Uh, no,
Okay.
but like that's fine. I mean, great. I'm glad it's not my arms or my face. But like,
Yeah.
but I think my like I mean, over time for me, just really locking into what do I love about this piece. Like, I do not want it. I mean, when we're performers, yeah, it does. You know, there is a lot of it's I'm on stage, me. Sure, but why am I playing this piece? You know, what do I love about it? And I just try to make that like the louder voice than the oh my god me voice.
Right.
And usually, I mean, I'm like, you know, I'm getting old, so like I think I'm hopefully getting more successful at that. Obviously, some performances, the balance will shift.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I really feel like, especially, oh, ice cream truck moment. I really love, I really love most, like, you know, if I'm going to spend time and commit to performing and I'm in charge of the rep, like, I have to love it.
You
If I
have
don't love it,
to.
I'm not playing.
I agree. I agree. Like, I just can't, yeah, I can't be asked to go through the motions of something that doesn't really, speak to me, um,
Yeah.
like at all. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel fortunate that, like, especially in the past couple of years, a lot of the projects, even that I haven't initiated, have been things that I love, and I'm super grateful for that. And I hope that continues, like, after we're all let out of our cages. So, but, but, but yeah, and it always evolves. I feel like, you know, my interests will, you know, change.
They should. I hope so. I mean, I'm going back to things that maybe I had dismissed earlier on in my life, or something that had like, I felt like no, that is
But
that is.
what is it? What is that?
Believe it or not, it's Chelsea.
What?
I'm coming back to it. I'm coming back to it. So like, Jacinto Chelsea, like he writes these things for voice that are like in so many ways so abusive, and and so like I don't know. I was just sort of when it had come into my lap and kind of made its way onto my radar, which was a little late. I think a little late to the game, um, but. I was just like so afraid of like messing up like all the work that I thought I had done in earnest. You know, I was like, I went to the conservatory and I can't destroy it. And so then my fear of that piece led me into like developing pieces that the point was to destroy. So I went into like the opposite direction. And then I was like, if I'm going to destroy it, then it's going to be like on my terms. Somebody's going to tell me how to do it. And so like now I'm coming back to it. I'm like, oh, I think I get it. I get it. I get what's going on here. It's this primal like barbaric yop, you know. It's like super melodramatic but super earnest and super sincere at the same time. But I'm coming back to it. This is like my need to.
That's great. So it's like a whole full circle of the thing that inspired
Yeah,
the portion
yeah.
of your artistic life. You're like, wait, I never actually. I'm gonna go back and do
I
that.
think I'm going to. It was like one of those. I like went down to the library, and was like combing through the stacks, and opened this up. I was like, oh, that looks interesting. That looks interesting. And then I tried it once. I was like, ugh, no, I can't. I can't. Close it, put it back.
Yeah.
Go to the next. Try that. You know.
Well, it has to be the right time because I'm assuming you know a lot of that work is a really big time commitment, and that's and and focus commitment, and you have to be in the right place to like take that on.
Totally, 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 right? It's like these things, even if I'm working on like Schubert keeps coming up just because I have just done some Schubert recordings for a group in San Diego, and
Nice.
even going back to Schubert, it's like thinking of my relationship to standard rap and my relationship to contemporary music. It's like it's very much the same. It's like a love hate all around. And if I'm going to put in any time, it's going to be like really really valuable time. But sometimes it's like sometimes you get a piece and it's just like, is this going to be worth all of the practice hours? You know, like there's just
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
for this piece is like 2 minutes long. It's gonna take me like like 100 hours to get it into my body. Is that worth it? It's hard. It's hard to make that call.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I've definitely been there and said yes and then also said no.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
won't say to what I said no to,
No,
but
you won't do that. No, we would never do that to our dear colleagues and brethren.
no. Oh no. Nobody no yeah. But I mean I think and it's also a special relationship that you form with the things that you did say yes to that you spent, you know, years of your life studying.
Yeah, these pieces, they
I
become
feel that way.
part of you,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you're sort of enmeshed. Yeah.
I
Go
thought it
ahead.
was cool. No, the fun was Zoom, but like I thought it was cool. The Chelsea piece that I included on this recording is something I played a whole lot of in the early 2000s,
Uh-huh.
and I hadn't taken it out in like um,
Since
10 years.
then, yeah.
So, but it was like you put. I mean, it just came back to me very quickly, and I was shocked. It was like I had just been practicing it, and I felt that that was kind of amazing because that does not always happen.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was nice to also have like a more mature perspective on how I want to perform it than when I did when I was a
A
baby.
baby.
But
A wee
yeah,
babe. Like, what did you discover
yeah.
maybe that you just you're just too naive and immature to really get at the time when you started it?
Uh, I think so. I mean, it's a short piece, but it starts out pretty languid and it gets a little frantic. When
Hmm.
it gets more active. So I think when I was younger, I took that as like this frantic virtuosic moment,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, kind of. And I was like, no, that is not what's going on here.
Not the yeah.
It's more. I mean, because Chelsea was very. He was an esoteric thinker. I kind of think it was like more of an ecstatic moment than like a frantic moment. So I was looking at it more that way. You get really caught up. But it's kind of like if you're doing like mantra work and you've repeated something, um, which is something I do a lot of in my personal life. You repeat something so many times, it changes so much, and sometimes it can get a little bit ecstatic and heated, and that's what happens there. But I didn't know that when I was a baby.
Yeah, right. You see
Oh,
all the dots on the page,
yeah,
like, oh yeah,
yeah,
I'm gonna show that
yeah.
off
I was like,
a little
oh,
bit.
yeah.
That looks
And it's
hard. I'm gonna do that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, just I don't know. It's interesting.
Are you coming to like in this time of isolation? So you chose these three pieces to include on the Sofa series. Are there any others that you are maybe returning to or starting anew that are like allowing you to kind of like maybe clear your headspace and or just like drown out the ice cream trucks and the Rona and just sort of like get into this little happy place.
Yeah. Um. Yes. Well, actually, so not that was the one I returned to. But I have. It's like if I talk about it, and it becomes a thing
That
that
it's
I.
real. Yes.
It's real. No. Um. So I have a Chelsea work that is not published currently that I got from a colleague that I'm working on. So but it's called Tetracus and it's about half an hour. So it's a it's an epic undertaking. It's
A lot
dense.
of minutes.
But the hard thing, I mean, it's definitely a fits and starts for me at the moment because I'm teaching a lot right now, and that's taking up a lot of mental energy to like deal with. But when I am, looking at new work, that's something that I'm working on and trying to form a program around that, and then also I'm actually looking at a lot of female Italian composers from the Renaissance era, and I'm thinking about maybe how to incorporate some of their work in the program with us. But this is like baby stages. I'm doing a lot of reading.
That. Love that.
um,
Like, are you gonna explore like, well, who are you thinking of? I'm kidding.
like Isabella Leonardo for one, I think. But I'm doing some reading, and then I'm thinking about if transcribing something would be, or arranging would be a good like counterpart to this larger work. Yeah, her work is interesting. Just like the whole process of how they were composing.
Yeah, go on. What do you?
Or I mean, just that like if you were at all interested in music as a woman at the time, then you had to be a nun.
Yep, pretty
Which
much.
I think was several countries that applied,
Yeah.
but yeah, many
Yeah.
countries.
Yeah.
And juxtaposed with like, I think it's different music through different spiritual traditions. It's a tongue twister. Um, so for Chelsea, that was like he had the luxury of time of making like esoteric music and improvisation his like life's pursuit, right? He was in the financial position to just do that all the time.
Do it, yeah.
And then for women like Isabella, right, would be that's God is wonderful, but I have to align myself this way so that I can pursue my passion, and I'm like forced into this like tradition of spiritual music to
Yeah.
express myself and my interests, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. These are my initial thoughts.
There's nothing like, yeah, totally concrete.
I mean, a lot of it is that I'm just reading into a lot of like Italian spiritual traditions right now, and my brain's just mulling around it. So
Yeah. I mean,
pre-Christian, and then when Christianity came on in.
yeah, the like transition from paganism to Christianity is like fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Christine, darling, thank you so much for joining me today
Oh, you're
on
welcome.
this fine Corona evening. The air is clear and the birds are chirping and the ice cream trucks have returned to the wild.
I was gonna say if you didn't mention them, I was gonna have to throw it in there. Because they're a big part of my sonic world right now. So.
Yeah, I'm surprised that you're not like diving into like other sort of bizarrely tuned music boxes and like pop
I
goes.
mean, it goes full Charles Ives over here if they cross paths. They haven't done it lately, but one of them is broken, and so it only repeats the first couple of notes on loop, and that's pretty amazing. I'm kind of sorry that one didn't go by right now.
Oh my God, that is awesome.
Yeah.
Music circus. We love it.
Awesome in theory.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure
Maybe not in
it's
practice.
time, not so much. That's so great. Well, thank you again. Thank you so much for chatting with
Oh, you're welcome. You're
me.
welcome.
And have a wonderful night. Bye.
Oh, bye.